Small Fry Lake is an accessible escape tucked away on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. In the mid-1980s, 4 teenagers parked their car and began a half-mile trek through these woods for a midnight swim. It was a warm, 70-degree summer night. They were lightweights, slightly buzzed from a few beers, and confident enough in their surroundings to hike without a map or flashlights. 15 minutes into the forest, the environment changed. Without warning, the summer heat evaporated and the air around them turned freezing. A drop this drastic happens over hours in a typical weather system. To have the temperature plunge in seconds suggests a physical force contained within a very specific, localized radius. Weeks later, a completely different group of adults visited the lake for a Saturday hike. They had no connection to the teenagers, and unlike the first group, they were visiting in the middle of a clear afternoon. This was a known hiking spot, yet the group found themselves entirely alone. The trails were empty and the woods were silent, despite it being a prime weekend for hikers. When they reached a cliff overlooking the lake, the shift occurred again. Each adult was suddenly hit with a physical sensation of dread, so powerful they couldn't even bring themselves to look at the view. Whatever exists at Small Fry Lake operates independently of the time of day or the age of the visitors. It is an enduring feature of the landscape that acts as a biological deterrent. Both groups described the same sequence: a sudden cold, a heavy atmosphere, and then an immediate involuntary reaction from their own bodies. This is piloerection. Tiny muscles at the base of your hair follicles, the erector pili, violently contract, pulling the hairs straight up. This serves a specific evolutionary purpose. By pulling the hair away from the skin, the body increases its ability to detect minute changes in air currents, the kind of subtle pressure waves created by a predator moving through the brush. That physical sensation is the biological precursor to a psychological state of impending doom. For the adults, it felt like their lives were flashing before their eyes. For the teenagers, it manifested as a frantic need to not be the slowest person in the group. These reactions are the result of the body's internal hardware translating a high-level external threat into a demand for immediate survival. There is one detail both groups shared that is particularly telling. During their retreat, they were completely silent. No one screamed, no one coordinated a plan. They simply ran. This silence is a byproduct of the amygdala. When this part of the brain lights up in response to a life-threatening stimulus, it initiates a neurological hijack. Survival becomes the only priority. The brain diverts metabolic energy away from the prefrontal cortex and specifically drains it from Broca's area, the region responsible for speech production. Vocalization is an expensive use of oxygen and cognitive focus. When your body believes an apex threat is inches away, it calculates that talking is a waste of resources that could be spent on your heart and lungs. This wasn't a social choice made by the hikers. It was a synchronized biological override designed to prioritize movement over communication. The teenagers fled in a total panic. They abandoned their clothes, their blankets, and their campfire, sprinting blindly, back through the trees until they reached the car. The adults did the same. They walked down that cliffside at a frantic pace, ignoring their cameras and their lunches, focused only on reaching the trailhead. Once safe inside their vehicles, the silence continued. Both groups drove home in a state of total mutism, unable to discuss or even acknowledge what they had just endured. That sustained, heavy silence is a classic signature of clinical shock. It marks the point where the body has exhausted its emergency resources and is attempting to process a massive physiological toll. The two stories only collided weeks later. During a family trip, the teenage narrator sat by a campfire and listened to a man from another family recount a terrifying experience he'd had on a recent hike. The man described the same overwhelming dread and the same physical urge to flee. When he confirmed the location was Small Fry Lake, the narrator realized he wasn't alone in his experience. We don't know if the trigger at the lake is a rare infrasound phenomenon, a chemical release from the earth, or something more predatory. But the biology of the victims suggests that whatever is out there is something we aren't meant to see. When your instincts shut down your voice and demand that you run, the best thing you can do is listen.